As Americans are inundated with false advertising about diet and health in general, we as a nation are getting fatter and sicker. The current narrative serves only to drive profits that work to keep you sick and dependent on the ever-growing manufactured food and drug industries. The more important question is not why this is, though we could do a video on that at a later date, but what can we do about this as individuals? The system is large and fixed. However, we can make a difference in our own quality of life by making good choices. This isn't as easy as one might think. This will require reprogramming the things you've been taught about health and nutrition, and the only way to do this is by learning from experts like myself who seek the truth about health and bring it to the table. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Dr. Victoria Munoz. I am a naturopathic medical doctor who specializes in regenerative medicine, metabolic health, and athletic performance. I work with athletes and non-athletes alike, and my patients are getting results. Today we are going to look at visceral fat and why we should be concerned. First, I'd like to preface that there are 3 different kinds of fat that can exist in the human body. Brown fat, or brown adipose tissue, is metabolic and it contains mitochondria. It serves to keep you warm when you are shivering, regulate glucose and fat metabolism, store energy, and helps your body burn calories. This fat is more abundant in infants and to a lesser degree in adults. White fat, or white adipose tissue, is a healthy fat that helps to protect the internal organs, create insulation for the body, and store energy. And thirdly, there is a visceral fat, or inflammatory fat. The first question you may be asking yourself is, what is visceral fat? Visceral fat collects in the abdominal cavity. It is inflammatory, dangerous, a silent killer, and results in serious disease. Why did we end up with visceral fat in the first place? Visceral fat has a few causes, the diet being the primary cause. Eating ultra-processed foods is 85 to 95% of it. Why processed foods? All processed food can be summed up in 3 ingredients: refined grains, seed oils, and sugar. This is literally every packaged food product on the shelves of your grocery store. To a lesser degree are causes such as chronic stress, lack of sleep, and environmental toxins. As a result, we are faced with a number of diseases we did not see 120 years ago. Cardiovascular disease such as heart attack and stroke, diabetes, which includes insulin resistance, and as a result, high levels of small particle LDL, which if you've watched any of my videos on the carnivore diet, you will learn that carbohydrates in the diet are the cause of this. Hypertension, primarily essential and primary hypertension, which is caused by insulin resistance. Autoimmune diseases such as Hashimoto's thyroiditis, rheumatoid arthritis, and Sjogren's disease. Neurological diseases such as multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and dementias. Mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and the list goes on. How do we diagnose or measure for visceral fat? Well, we can start with blood work, which is an indirect measure. We would be looking for inflammatory markers such as a C-reactive protein, SED rate, antibodies that would allude to the presence of an autoimmune condition, low-density lipoprotein, which shows our risk of heart attack or stroke, and hemoglobin A1C, which measures our blood sugar over a 3-month period. Then there's MRI. MRI is the gold standard. Basically, we would image the abdominal and chest cavity as well as the thighs. There's CAT scan, which is less definitive. Of course, symptoms of disease would allude to the presence of visceral fat. DEXA scan is not a good measure or diagnostic tool, and neither is body weight. Important terms I want you to take note of are myosteatosis, which is the infiltration of visceral fat into skeletal muscle; sarcopenia, which is the wasting of skeletal muscle as a result of the presence of visceral fat; adiponectin, which is a signaling protein released from white, healthy adipose fat, helps with insulin sensitivity and inflammation; low levels lead to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and atherosclerosis; and hormetics. Hormetics is low doses of a stressor which would normally be damaging, causing adaptation. So first, let's talk about MRI studies. What do we see? Well, again, we'd be scanning the abdominal and chest cavities as well as the thigh muscles. In terms of creating a comparison, we've compared sprinter and marathon runners with MRI studies. Are both of these athletes really fit? When we look at the MRI studies of sprinters, what we typically see is a very low level of visceral fat with very well-developed abdominal muscles. When we look at their thigh muscles, there's virtually no marbling, which would be indicative of the presence of visceral fat. When we look at the MRI studies of marathon runners, however, we see a very different picture. We will see moderate to high levels of visceral fat in the abdominal and chest cavity, as well as marbling in the thigh muscles. If you go back and review my video on HIIT for ultimate health and fitness, it will give a better explanation as to why this is. Another thing that's very important to understand is that visceral fat will wrap itself around internal organs, including the heart. Every tissue that visceral fat touches, it causes damage. It causes inflammation. It causes the deterioration of that tissue, ultimately causing disease. Visceral fat also infiltrates into skeletal muscle. Remember the term myosteatosis. This is basically marbling appearance on MRI or autopsy. It's very important to keep in mind that visceral fat does affect the brain and the cerebral arteries. So what is the solution to this problem? Well, the first step is diet. A low to no carb diet would be indicated for reducing visceral fat. That would be keto, ketovore, or carnivore. Go back and watch my video on why can't I lose weight to learn more. HIIT training, which stands for high intensity interval training. This would essentially be sprinting at 10 to 20 second all out effort intervals. Go back and watch my video on HIIT for ultimate health and fitness for more details about HIIT training and how it helps. Weight training, of course, is also anaerobic, lifting heavy relative to your level of conditioning. This is considered high intensity. Hermetics, which is heat and cold therapies such as sauna and cold plunge, and fasting. These therapies increase brown fat and supercharge the immune system. Reduce stress. An effective way of reducing stress is by practicing daily mindfulness and meditation. And then there's treatment of chronic disease. If you're already showing symptoms of disease or want to be screened for the presence of insidious disease, remember, disease is manifesting in the body a good 20 years before it becomes symptomatic. Seeing a qualified health and performance specialist like myself would be key in helping detect and reverse the effects of disease. And remember, this is a lifestyle change. No pill or potion or quick fix is going to help you reduce visceral fat. So by learning all these techniques in improving your health and quality of life, you can stay on track. So hey guys, if you're interested in learning more or working with me, you can contact me through my website here, or you can contact my office by calling this phone number here. I'm Dr. Victoria Munoz. Until next time, take care.